Hello and welcome to How to Draw. Today I'll be teaching you how to draw a realistic eye. At the end of this session, you should have a detailed pencil drawing of an eye you see in real life. No prior drawing experience is needed. All you need to know is basic shapes and what an eye looks like. Just know that this is a tutorial that requires patience and time. Enough introduction, let's jump right in. Disclaimer, I'm going to be using the word carbuncle a lot. The carbuncle is the pink part of your eye closest to your nose. Now that we have that out of the way, let's start with some things you're going to be needing. Also, shading is coloring in with your pencil. First, you're going to be needing any type of pencil/pen, although I recommend using a pencil, trust me, a blank piece of white paper, and an eraser, and that's it. Step 1. First, you're going to need to set up your area. Sit at a desk or table with your paper in front of you, flat on the desk. Sit with your back against the chair you're sitting and sit up straight. Step 2. Grab your pencil in whichever way is most comfortable for you when you write or draw. Step 3. Now we get to start drawing. First, you're going to draw an almond shape on its side. Make the shape slightly less round to be more realistic. It's important to make the spot where the carbuncle is small and make it sort of its own oval on its side. Make sure that the oval is sort of 3/4 of an oval, meaning it should be an oval just a quarter of the top chopped off. Make the end slightly pointy. Step 4. For the carbuncle, draw a slightly curved line with the curve going towards the pointy end of the eye. Have the curve extend from the top of where the oval ends and meets the almond shape to the bottom. In the middle of that oval shape, draw a very slightly curved line, extending vertically from the top of the oval ending at the bottom. Step 5. Now that we have the eye shape, I like to draw the iris next, which is the color part of your eye. Within the almond shape, draw sort of a 3/4 circle that's about half the length of the eye. Make sure that this circle is in the middle of the eye and that the 3/4 circle is touching the top of the eye. Step 6. Draw a small circle in the middle of the 3/4 circle we just drew. This is your pupil, so shade it in so it's black/dark gray. On the iris, we're going to draw a highlight. This is where the light shines on the eye. Over top of the pupil, draw a small rectangle so that the shorter sides start at the top of the eye and then halfway down the pupil. The longer ends should end just slightly further than the diameter/width of the pupil. Step 8. Darken the circumference/perimeter of the iris. Step 9. Now we get to draw the details of the iris. There are two options, a simpler version and a more detailed version. For the simpler version, draw a series of straight-ish lines extending from the pupil to the edge of the iris, going around the pupil. You can draw some shorter and longer and thicker and thinner to add more realism. Make sure not to draw over top of the highlight. More detailed version. You can repeat the steps we did in the simpler version and just add some squiggly lines in the middle of some series of lines. You can add them throughout the iris, just don't add too many and try to curve them with the pupil rather than having some just horizontal and some vertical and some diagonal, etc. Step 10. Now we get to draw the lashes. At the top and end part of the eye, add some long curved lines that are only slightly smaller than the height of the iris. Make these lines go up and in the direction of the pointy end, meaning they should kind of be like a / on your keyboard that's curved inwards. Make some of these very slightly shorter and very slightly longer and also have them lean to add more realism. You could also cross some of these lines by having some go slightly in the direction of the carbuncle. Stop drawing these lines a little less than halfway through the width of the eye. Step 11. As you're going down the eye, make the lashes shorter and shorter when you're done drawing the longest ones. Make sure they're only slightly shorter than the previous ones, and that you draw a few that are the same length before getting shorter. The eyelashes should stop where the carbuncle begins, and should be slightly smaller than the height of the carbuncle. As you're done drawing the lashes, change the direction they're going in gradually. About 2/3 of the way through, the lashes should be completely leaning towards the carbuncle. Step 12. Time for bottom lashes. Draw some short, about the height of the carbuncle, slightly curved lines at the bottom of the eye. These should all be the same size, except for when you reach the end of the eye. You're going to want them to go downwards and going slightly in the direction of the pointy part of the eye. Slowly, about halfway through, you're going to have the lashes go downwards and very slightly in the direction of the carbuncle. Don't add as many as you did for the top lashes, and have the lashes end a bit further to the direction of the pointy end than where the carbuncle starts. You can also make the last couple lashes be very slightly shorter than the rest. Step 13. Now that we have the lashes, carbuncle, and iris done, we're going to work on some outside of the eye details. First, we're going to draw a crease. For the crease, you're going to draw a slightly curved line over top of the eye. The curve should follow the curve of the eye and should be positioned so that it's where the middle lashes end. Step 14. We're going to draw some under eye lines to add some more realism. You can make these as prominent or less visible as you want it to be. Draw a curved line following the curve of the eye underneath it. The line should start where the carbuncle ends and the almond shape begins, and end a little bit further down than where the pointed end of the eye is. This should be positioned so that where it begins at the end of the carbuncle, it should be almost touching the eye. It should be where the bottom lashes end, and end slightly further down than the pointy part of the eye. Step 15. Now we're going to draw the eyebrow. The eyebrow should start where the entire eye, including carbuncle, begins, and end just slightly further than the pointed end of the eye. Draw the eyebrow with individual slightly curved lines that go in the direction of the pointed end of the eye. You can make it as thick or thin as you like, whatever looks right to you. Draw many of these sort of following the curve of the eye. Make sure that the eyebrow is high enough that it is in a spot that a second crease would be if you stacked it up as high as you did for the first one. To add realism, draw some hairs that are out of place, but only slightly. You could draw some that aren't leaning as far down as other ones, and some that aren't really in the group. You could also draw some shorter hairs at the beginning of the eyebrow that sort of stick up. Keep a consistent thickness throughout the eyebrow until you reach the part where it really curves downwards. This part of the eyebrow should be slightly thinner and should end with only 1 or 2 hairs as the thickness. Step 16. Okay, this is the final step. For this step, we're going to be shading the eye and outside of the eye details. For the carbuncle, shade around the outside, although still inside the eye, very lightly. Shade where we put the line in the middle as well. To add some more realism, shade even lighter, extending on where we just shaded. Don't shade in the middle point, though, as that's where the light would shine. Crease. Shade the crease line moderately dark. Shade the ends of the eyelid, which is the space between the crease line and the eye. Shade darkest at the end and gradually get lighter. Do the same on the other side. Shade lightly in the middle of the eyelid. For the under eye, shade underneath the eye, ending roughly where we drew the line for the under eye bags. The shading should end at each end of the eye, but make sure you gradually get lighter when you reach the end. Shade dark, but not too dark, right underneath the eye and gradually get lighter as you go down. A trick is to shade in a 1/4 circle motion following the curve of the eye. If you feel as though it ends too abruptly, feel free to go slightly further. I like to go slightly further to add more depth. Lightly shade in between the crease and the brow. For the inside of the eye, shade lightly around the outside of the eye, of course still inside, and leave the middle white. Shade the pointed end a little bit darker and shade it so that it kind of rounds the pointed part. Here's a few tips and tricks so that you'll be ultra successful. First, don't grip your pencil too tight. Keep your hand loose, but not so loose the pencil's slipping out of your hand. A tip that helps me get clean lines is to draw loose lines. These will give you much cleaner and straighter lines. If you're constantly smudging your page, just get a Kleenex and put it at the side of your hand so that you can rest your hand on that while you draw. This will prevent any smudging. This is very important if you want your drawings to turn out beautiful and amazing every time. Always take your time, because this is what it could look like if you make it quick and messy. Drawing a realistic eye can be super rewarding if you can do it well. I hope I helped you understand how to draw an eye better, and that you can draw it off memory to wow your friends. Thanks for watching. Happy drawing!